Hey, it is your buddy, Peace and Harmony with you here today. Much love going out to all the beautiful empowered harmonizers, and a huge shout out to all the viewers. Missed you. We have been out of the Peace and Harmony studios and had a therapeutic vacation in Cabo San Lucas. So it has been a couple weeks since we last shot our most recent video. So thank you so much for those of you who have emailed me and commented, and also a huge shout out to those of you who have recently made donations to the channel. Thank you so much for your support. You really inspire me to keep the content flowing and keep it coming at you, and I really do try hard to really post on a very consistent and daily basis. And believe it or not, these videos actually take a lot of energy. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of planning to get everything sort of set up, and the time and sort of the research in formulating and listening and reading comments and answering questions. So thank you so much, and absolutely positively, I do have a huge video of a huge library of videos here. So you can always play the previous videos that touch on comment that you're looking for answers to, but definitely feel free to send me your comments. And also you can email me at peaceandharmonynow@gmail.com. I've had a lot of viewers who have asked how to make a donation or to send me an email. So please do, take a look and email me there. And if you don't have a PayPal set up, I don't, a viewer asked me, can you send me a check? Please just set up like a PayPal account at paypal.com, and you can make a donation there. And I really try to leave the link there per viewer request. So thank you so much for your support. And we're zooming in and focusing in right now on a great viewer question, and that is when it comes to dealing with someone who is psychopathic. Why is it taking me so long to get through this? In other words, this question comes at us from a frequent viewer, and this is a female psychopath who has been on their mind incessantly, and despite evidence to the contrary, in other words, it makes a lot of rational sense. They're beginning to understand a little bit more of what a psychopath is. They're identifying the red flags. They're identifying the traits, the qualities, basically how to spot someone who is of this personality type or persuasion. And now looking at this, why is it so difficult to move through? Why is it so difficult to let go? Well, when we really look at a psychopathic personality, it's really a matter of reinforcement, and it's a matter of depth. And bear with me one moment. I'm just going to reach and grab something here. This is my other favorite ring. This is my turquoise ring here that I love to wear and have kind of as a touchstone when I do the videos. If you've noticed, I am big on the turquoise. It's a very powerful stone for me and brings a lot of clarity. Whether that makes sense for you or not, it's neither here nor there. But getting back to our question, it's a matter of reinforcement and intensity and depth with which they promulgate sort of their targeting, the way that they set people up, the deliberateness and the pre-calculated manipulation, and depth and intensity and degree of reinforcement that makes it so integral and sort of woven into the fabric of your being. Meaning, they're very opportunist individuals. Opportunists meaning they're looking for opportunities to take what they want. In other words, undermine people, sabotage people, get attention, whether it's life energy, meaning chi, meaning having somebody there at their disposal to use as their whipping boy, their whipping girl, someone to dump on, someone to have always there for them. These sort of, psychic needs where they might just want to know that they have an impact or effect. Oftentimes for a psychopath, this is not always a positive reinforcement, but it can be negative reinforcement. In other words, the degree to which they influence, the intensity to which they get to you, get at you, get to your core, your hard core, which has never been sort of exposed before. The psychopath is very adept at opening up that sort of inner core or inner sense, essence of your being, and get to what I would call your true innocence, your purity of being. What I feel really is your innocence is something that they rob and steal from you. Particularly that, when your guard is down, when you're laying bare your soul, when you're exposing yourself, opening your heart, what truly makes you human and genuine and authentic. Realize that these are the traits that a psychopath does not have. So those people who have an abundance of this are perfect targets for these people to sort of extrapolate and pull out a lot of life energy and information and juice from, so to speak. So meaning those people who are one of innocence. And I feel it's really kind of almost like the original sin. If you look like in the Bible, when Adam and Eve ate from the poison apple, God told you not to eat from this forbidden fruit. And then all of a sudden they became subconscious of their nakedness and their shame, and they wanted to hide and cover, and there were no clothes in the Garden of Eden. It's very much, I feel, like this sort of robbing of your innocence, robbing of your nakedness, your lack of self-conscious, sort of being your utmost comfortable, your utmost genuine authenticity, your hopes and your dreams, sort of your feeling of freedom and liberation, and being connected to this individual in this sort of Garden of Eden state. And this is just like a huge paraphrase. And this is, once again, a huge parallel. And I use a lot of these parallels to help explain and to help people move through the stages. So not only can you understand what happened, you also need to understand why this happened, and then what your takeaway from it, in other words, how you processed it, the meaning that you take, and then how do you let go, and how do you move through gracefully and with your head held high in a sense of really what self-esteem is, and sort of recover that original state. So the innocence that is taken from you, this sort of freedom, this feeling of relaxation, euphoria, this answering to your prayers, this sort of what I call the hook, line, and sinker, that the person really gets you hooked, is really a sense of addiction. But furthermore, it's a way that they have interfered and interrupted with your natural and organic thought process, connected to the core of you, connected to your essence, connected to your I am. What really makes you you, your value center. We're trying to really describe here the indescribable or the intangible, the essence of you, what makes you you, your personality, what makes you tick, your values, what you hold dear, what you hold close, who you are, what it is you love. You might love nature, you might love spirituality, you might love your religion, you might love intimacy, you might love giving affection, you might love poetry, you might love dreaming, planning, all these different things that you might really be at your innocence, your core, your true self. And then giving this freely to this person. And someone who is psychopathic sees this, and you possess what they have not. So in other words, like a child who is carefree, who's innocent, who's, basically the world is their oyster. It's this sort of very id-like, what Freud might call the id-like, lack of egoic state. It's sort of that really sort of carefree, childlike, spontaneous part of your being where you can then play from, and you don't have sort of this overriding super ego, this self-consciousness, this hyper morality. And so a lot of people who have carried this very heavily, a very heavy critical state, like a very heavy super ego that was imposed by them either from an individual or their society, might then feel the cessation of this or the shedding of this while they're with the psychopath. And so the psychopath is, or someone who is really narcissistic, is able then to sort of, suss you out, sort of scope you and scan you from the crowd and see your needs, to sort of be this, this spontaneous, carefree, loving being. They might really see your need here. A very true human, authentic need to be close, to have a partner, to have the answer to your prayers, these sort of oceanic feelings, these very romantic, gone with the wind sort of, what I call, feelings of infatuation. Really what then becomes the hook, line, or sinker. It becomes the hook. It becomes the addiction. It becomes what keeps you stuck. It's what pulls you out of your element, like a fisherman or a fisherwoman takes that fish. So the fish is swimming along and, is like eating seaweed or whatever it feeds on. And then here comes this little worm or bit of something that's dangling along. And they think it's just floating in the water. And it goes, wow, here's this like awesome piece of lobster that's like the perfect bite size. And then it chomps on it. And then all of a sudden it feels its tug of, the tug of the end of its life, pulling it out of its element. It begins to flop and flail. And what appeared to be like its next meal now becomes the end of its end. It's, out of water. It cannot breathe. It's, flipping and flailing. It's hook, line, and sinker. That fisherman has successfully caught that fish. And so very much so, and just like a web fishing, if you will, to kind of equate or parallel the experience so you can understand the cause, the why that's created this effect. So it's like being swept up by this person. And so the hook, line, and sinker is what you have internalized. Your new I am, the answer to your prayers, the perfect meal, the perfect person. You'll hear sort of after the love bombing stage, this person told me everything I wanted to hear. They gave me everything I never had. They, for once I was comfortable. For once, they gave me these beautiful texts. They gave me these pictures. They, I could be myself. All these sort of statements that are like this euphoric feeling. And once again, it's the oxytocin, it's the dopamine release that is promised to you by this person, albeit false promises. False because they never intend to fulfill that with which they are telling you. It is white, it is lies. It is not only little white lies, it is big, fat, hairy lies. It is lies that they are intentionally telling you, deliberately telling you, stringing you along in many areas of your life. And the psychopath will admit to you, I was telling you what you wanted to hear. If you've ever, for example, in my case, worked with those people who are psychopathic for an extended period of time, worked with their victims, studied, etc., they will unequivocally tell you several things. A, their life is to be ruined. And I tell this in no lighthearted sense, and I tell this in a serious tone, but a psychopath will unequivocally tell you, as they do comment on the videos, email me, I've worked with in person, etc. So I have kind of a vast resource, if you can imagine, as well as, kind of where I have been raised in, an affluent area where, believe it or not, a lot of people who are very affluent tend to be of this ilk. It's not your typical Joe who's your business owner, who's your CEO, CFO, the top of this, the top of that. Believe it or not, yes, people who are affluent can be highly intelligent and hardworking, yet there are people with certain personality traits which tend towards the psychopathic, which find themselves climbing the corporate ladder very easily because they don't have a lot of certain emotions or feelings that would get in the way of their advancement. And that's just a whole nother topic. But I have, seen and witnessed this in many more areas than I would say your typical person. And so henceforth the curating of this information here and the creation of this channel to help really, which is a very vacant niche. There's not a lot of people who you can really talk to or who really get this. Anyway, and so with this, the psychopath will unequivocally tell you these sort of odd statements. They'll, their life is ruined. In other words, about the person who they're staying with. Once you expose them, once you, take off the mask, once you show them, that who they are and what they are, i.e., this is you don't feel love, you don't feel this, you don't feel connection, sort of understanding this and being able to point to a number of different situations where they laid the trap. The psychopath will unequivocally, because they know that their relationship, even if they're married, even if they have children, it is all just layers of protection for them. It's all just a mask. It's all just sort of a decoy for the, to appear to fit in, appear to fit normal, appear to be just like, everyone else who wants to hold hands and have a cup of coffee, and lick from the same ice cream cone or sit on the bench on the garden or whatever it is that they have romanced you. You'll oftentimes find that the way that this person is you so indelible in mind is that they did things that the typical person would not do. Taking you on the moonlight walk, sitting by the Japanese garden, twiddling your toes in the ocean, or whatever is so romantic. Giving you these little gifts. Doing things like holding the door for you, or as in the case the female psychopath, the ultimate seductress, the ultimate sort of tantalization of speech, these hyper-erotic, hyper-aroused suggestions, which don't quit, whether they're at the workplace, they're brushing their teeth. Everything can be hypersexualized or used as a sexual connotation, and they do this very well. Once again, quote unquote, better than the typical female. So that they're so stuck because they occupy this very intense part of you. The lies, that no one, and it's very difficult, I think, for people to process the degree and intensity of their lies and their ability to hide. People are like almost, I would say almost like in a state of shock. Just as if you were to experience something really extremely horrific, which wouldn't make sense if you were in a love relationship. Why should it be so horrific? Yet, I think there's almost an element of shock, which keeps people so stuck, and it's very difficult for them to process, on the normal, ordinary process of thought. It's very difficult to get over, and namely because the degree and intensity to which they lie, to which they deceive, to the ends of the earth to which they'll go, and have the inhuman ability to do this. So most people with a heart or a conscience would not be able to do these things. They have, quote unquote, an ability to deceive, to fool, to trick, to lie to have certain things roll off their tongue, a very glib and superficial way, sort of ultra smooth, ultra developed, very high level, to the degree to which most people could not stomach, they intellectually could not do, the way that they can, be with someone and all of a sudden appear an expert. So they have this ability to sort of metamorphosize. Once again, I equate to like a salamander or one of those animals in nature, like an octopus, which can become one color and then another, or like a mood ring. They can become, one way like an innocent child, and then another like an expert in calculus, or they can pick up subject matter very quickly and appear as if an expert. If you've ever witnessed this, there's a complete personality change. They have an ability to change personality types. And most people have a continuity of character. In other words, they are who they are. Their character is the way that it is. they have a general way of being, a general degree of, introversion or extroversion, a certain tendency towards one strength or one talent, and then they personally develop along those areas. People can develop in a number of different areas, but the degree and the superficiality to which a psychopath can do this for the intention of fooling is the problem. And so oftentimes people then are really literally addicted to this, just very much like a drug. So people have a difficulty sort of with, getting off this person like a drug. And so almost like being caught like up in a net, it's the degree to which they will break people down. In other words, wear you down, get people tired, get people exhausted, and then plant certain images, messages, keep you always thinking about them so you can never ever sort of regain your footing, regain your sobriety from them. Begin to be able to focus and, and say, what, this is a little off. I shouldn't go with this person. They have a way to kind of get you hooked if they sort of test you and see if you're, that low-hanging fruit or that bait. So realize that it is an intentional sort of setting up and a laying of this, what I feel is like a psychological trap, and then getting you to think like them. In other words, there are odd ways. The issue is that they think very differently, and they'll plant sort of a different thought process within you of how to, oftentimes it's in the lines of being sexually aroused, or the way that you should rethink your business or rethink your family, rethink your values, and get you sort of, against your own inherent values in your organic self. So it becomes this very unnatural sort of low state, which is your body then, it's like a toxic state that your body is trying to sort through and purge through. So that's why you have to go no contact. You have to understand the degree to which this person is setting people up for despair. And they will unequivocally tell you it is, for their ruin. I tell you everything that you want to hear, and, they'll give themselves away to people who know that, and they don't have these feelings, so they don't ever feel bad. They don't have a conscience. They don't worry about getting what they want or taking people down because it does not hurt them. They're not affected. And this is a very intense topic, but it's very important that you get them out of your system and